those words or write how?
Write what I just said, how you think. Yeah, she thought I was saying, write how you think. No. Write how you think. Now I'm going to say, write the words, how you think. But I'm trying to communicate with thinkers. So I'll make you think. Then write the word parameters. P-A-R-A-M-E-T-E-R-S. P-A-R-A-M-E-T-E-R-S. And whenever you see para, P-A-R-A, as a prefix, because it's actually what it is, that's a prefix. The root word is whatever comes behind it. It means alongside. So paradigm means alongside your thought. Parameters means, and of course meters is measurement. So it's dealing with what you do, or the boundaries on it. So paradigm is how you think. Parameters is how you do. Not what you do, but how you do. And then write productivity, what you get. That's very critical as we move forward, because, are you sir? The most critical element when it comes to leadership is your thought process. Let me say this. I wonder if you've considered that from the moment you were born, you were innately designed to do things you've never done. You ever thought about that? From the moment, think about this, from the moment, yeah, of course, but have you thought about it? Now you know. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Because when you consider that, it removes boundaries that have been imposed by the BS, the belief system of others. Just talk about it. I think y'all so nervous with that. He knows I'm mischievous, so he already knows what's up. But from the moment you were born, you were innately designed. That means the whole of your creation is manifest through your creativity. So think about it. You never crawl before you crawl. You never walk before you walk. You never talk before you talk. You never rode a bike before you rode a bike. You never played baseball before you played baseball. So at what point did you reach that you start feeling you wasn't supposed to do anything else new?
Right. Wow.
This is my friend. He's 75 years old. I don't believe it. I haven't seen a birth certificate. But he says he is, so I have to accept it. He looks like his last name. But the reality is, one of the things I've admired in the 10 years that I've known him personally, in private conversation and in public application and engagement, he's always seeking the next new. Whether it's technology, just personally, if it's something new, he's got it. He wants it. He wants to know how it works. What makes it tick? When we talked on the phone, even prepared to come here, he was talking with the wide-eyed curiosity of a 2-year-old standing on a chair trying to reach up in the top cabinet. That's how his conversation was. So he's saying, Rick, is something else there? I know it's something else there. We got to reach it, and we need somebody to bring us a ladder. That's how your life is designed to be. I was just on a plane one day, and I was thumbing through a magazine, and there was an article from a child psychologist, and the title of the article was Just Say Yes. And what he was dealing with is the fact that from 0 to 2 years old is the most creative time in the life of a human being. Because from 0 to 2, even without that human being being able to articulate its needs or desires intelligibly, everything that human being needs is accommodated from 0 to 2. Don't even know how to say, I need it, I want it, can you change it, I'm hungry. But even in an unintelligible way, from 0 to 2 that human beings' needs and demands are accommodated. Here's where the change happens. At 2 years old, here's what happens. At the height of your curiosity, when you are now ready to reach and discover and explore and engage and go after, there's a retardation process that happens from 2 years old to 4 years old where everything is moved away. Don't touch that. Don't mess with that. Leave that alone. Get off that. Instead of somebody having the intelligence to say, I'm shaping how they think, so let's put stuff there that they can reach. Let's give them stuff they can go after. They take everything away. So from 2 to 4, this child just hears, no, stop it, don't, leave it, get out of it, get away from it. Then you thrust them into preschool and say, learn. How? Because all I've just heard for 2 to 3 years is what I can't do. And so it takes from pre-K to 12th grade for them to relearn what they already innately knew from 0 to 2. Because from 2 to 4, somebody tried to make them unlearn what they innately already knew. Think about it. And then the condition becomes more aggravated if you're in an environment that's restrictive or that imposes boundaries on your life where you can't discover yourself. This is so critical when you talk about leadership, because the people around your life serve your life in 2 primary ways. Here's the first way. One, they become a sounding board for your life, which means you have somebody in your life that's encouraging you by being honest with you, watch this, without imposing themselves on you. That's the hardest advice to find. The hardest advice to find is somebody that will encourage you through an honest assessment of you without imposing their personal preferences on you. It's hard to find somebody like that because most people, for whatever reason, bias or put weight on their advice and opinions because of their personal preference. So you're getting a prejudiced perspective. And that becomes a liability in your life. So if somebody's going to lift your load, you need somebody around you that can encourage you through an honest assessment that has no personal prejudice. The other way that somebody lifts your load is if they possess a leadership mindset. Let me help you with this because this is so critical. If you're going to work along with a leader, or if others are going to work along with you as the leader, they don't, I need you to get this the way I need to say it. They don't have to think just like you, but they have to understand how you think. Okay? I'm going to say it one more time. If you're going to work along with a leader, or if others are going to work along with you as a leader, they don't have to think just like you. They shouldn't. Because you're not creating clones. You're cultivating and catalyzing character. So they should think just like you. But they should understand how you think. The reason it's so important for them to understand how you think is so they can consider what needs to be done from your perspective and then make their own application. Are you hearing me? And so it's so important. So if you're following a leader, study their thought patterns. It's real easy to do. Just pay attention to their choices. I mean, and that's how, I mean, you can use that for good or evil, by the way. I need to parenthetically add that. But nevertheless, I hope you use it for good, because once you study a leader's pattern, if it's for evil, you can manipulate their choice. Because, okay, I know if I do this, she gonna respond this way. So here's what I'm gonna do. I need to get this done. So I'm gonna act like I'm gonna do this.
Come on now.
And get them to go. I just showed you how to manipulate. I'm so sorry. I was so sure how to be mad. But the point I'm trying to show you is study how leaders think. Study how who you're following think. And the reason I'm saying that is because you miss golden opportunities when you're so busy fighting to get your thoughts accepted.
Well,
When there's an easier way with less confrontation if you understand how they think.
it's good.
So you don't have to think like them, and no leader should impose that, but at least you should understand how they think so you can know what to do. I told you earlier I was going to give you something I call leadership DNA. I don't think it's in your notes, but I want you to have this. Leadership DNA deals with what I believe are the three most critical elements. So you need to write this down. It's the three most critical elements that every leader should evaluate in potential leaders. Because if you do not evaluate these three things, remember what I told you earlier, the greatest resource you have is what? Time. The greatest commodity is people. But you got to make sure that you're not wasting your resource on commodity that doesn't recognize its value. So now from that premise, let's build. So with every person you develop, because it is possible to engage a person who's a good person, who's a talented person, who's a passionate person, but yet be frustrated with them, and they be frustrated with themselves because what you want out of them, you can't seem to get from them, and because you've imposed it on them, now they're frustrated because of all their talent and with all of their passion, they can't seem to meet the mark you set for them. There's a reason for that. And let me help you, because for too long we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. And instead of us redirecting people into what fits them so that the most, because let me tell you right now, if I'm doing anything that's producing the most for me, then I'm going to want to continue to do that thing to produce for you.
Right.
You understand? If what I'm doing is building my self-esteem, if what I'm doing is giving me a sense of fulfillment, I don't care who's benefiting from it. It's already adding to me. So the issue is, instead of fighting with people because they don't seem to be productive in a certain area, it could be an issue of placement, not passion. You hear what I'm saying? It could just be they're in the wrong place. And you look at, well, if you really want to do what you're doing, they're going, I'm doing all I got. It's like I was counseling a couple about a relationship, and they were considering marriage, and one of the parties was saying, you know what, my idea of a man is blah, 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 blah. So I said, looked at him and I said, what she said, is that you? He said, no. I said, sweetheart, he just told you, you have the wrong name. I mean, this ain't even rocket science. We're not even going deep with this. I ain't gonna even charge you for this whole session today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm done. I'm going to play golf or lunch. Something. I got other things to do. Because the reality is, you're never gonna make somebody into what they don't have the capacity. And I looked at him and I said, don't you take that negative, because for somebody else, you all the man they need. And that's what we miss with people. We're so quick to tag or label people ineffective, not realizing they can be effective in the right place. So, in order to identify that place, you've got to pay attention to this DNA that I'm talking about. Here are the three variables. Number one, it's called the leadership DNA, if you want to tag. Number one is attitude. The first thing you want to assess with a person, if you're trying to discover their leadership DNA, is what is their attitude. What does that mean, Dr. Allmon? That means, do they have a desire to become more? And how much do they want to become? That's number one. Right? There's no sense of taking somebody who say, you know what, now I like you and I'll work with you, but you know, I mean, I kind of like where I am in my life and I'm really not trying to stretch. Well, why in the world would you invest thousands of dollars in that? Send them to courses all over the country and then place them in a position where they're supposed to help other people to grow beyond themselves if that person says, I'm good where I am. And then you get mad with them because they don't produce. They just told you, I don't desire to be more. Right. So that's number one. Number two is appetite. This is leadership DNA. Appetite. Appetite is a desire to want more. So attitude is becoming more, but appetite is want more. You ever been around somebody in any context that had an insatiable desire for something? It's like they just couldn't get enough of it. You got tired of them before they got tired of wanting it. Well, that's very critical in your leadership DNA. Appetite is a desire to want more. And then the last one, which to me is the most critical, is aptitude. A-P-T-I-T-U-D-E. Aptitude. A-P-T-I-T-U-D-E. Aptitude is the ability to know more. And I'm not trying to be funny, but there's some people, you can give them the information, they will never get the interpretation. And you can explain it a million different ways. You can use circles and triangles and objects, and they just, you don't get a blink. And it's not their fault. That's just right. They don't get it. That's just there. And don't, I heard you. And don't fuss with them. I just wish you get it. You're going to embarrass them because they don't want to say what you ought to pick up, and that is, that's all I can have. I mean, I'm out. I'm done. I was at recess before first period happened. See what I'm saying? I was already on the swing. I don't know why you're going through all this. I'm not here. School never checked in. And you telling me to check out. I'm not going to make it to check out. And you got to be honest with that. That's why if you're a leader, you got to be secure with you. Or because if you're insecure, you'll be imposing or overcompensating for your insecurities on other people, and then you make them more dysfunctional. Because now you're pushing to get something out of them that they never had, but the only reason you're pushing to get something out of them they never had is because you never got it. So you're exploiting their deficiency because of your lack of development. And I've seen it too many times, unfortunately, in a corporate setting, in church settings, with entrepreneurs. They got great ideas, got great dreams, got great noble goals, but they never developed themselves. And what they miss, I don't have time to deal with it today, but there's this teaching I do for leaders in this annual setting I have called the Gathering of Eagles, which is for 21st century professionals and pastors, all under 40 years old. And I do it once a year for about 3 days. And I dealt with, I think 2 years ago, about the prayer that Solomon forgot to pray. Because when God said to him, you can ask for anything you want, and Solomon said, give me wisdom to know how to go in and out among your people, the next verse, you almost miss it if you're not looking. God reminds him of the character of David and the values of David, and he said, your father David sought after my ways. Solomon literally skips over that. Never even acknowledged that God said that. And then you come to the end of Solomon's life, and he's destroyed his legacy because while he had great vision, and he's the wisest man that ever lived, he had no values. So he gets to the end of his life, and he's building altars to gods that he was killing people for serving. That's what happens in the life of a professional when you've got vision but no value. So you end up making people connected to you follow you unhealthy because you're imposing things on them to bring validation to you. A leader, God help me now. A leader, I know we're in a professional environment. Y'all gotta forgive me, I had a moment. A leader should never impose their dysfunctions as a demand on those that are following. Because you just cheat that follower out of their own development. It ain't my fault that you didn't develop in that area. Now you're cheating me out of being developed the way I need to be developed because you're putting expectations on me that I was never supposed to meet in the first place. You didn't finish your vision. You didn't write out the plan right. You didn't articulate what you wanted. And now you get mad at me for not producing what you didn't help me to understand. Come on. I'm not the one that's supposed to tell you what you want me to understand. You're supposed to help me understand what you want. Or else I should be the leader. And you follow me. Let it digest. Take it in. Green with pop liquor. Just let it stew. Now it's going to get a little ugly in here for a minute because if you start dealing with leaders attract leaders, I need to help somebody. Because if you say you're a leader, I don't know why I got these kind of people around me. Side eye. You attract who you are, not what you perpetrate. You don't attract what you perpetrate, you attract who you are. So the issue could be, it's one of two things. Either what's coming out of you is not you, and you need to adjust it. Or either what's coming out of you is really you, and you need to assess it. Because if what you're attracting to you does not look like what you want for you, you got to first understand that it's based on what's coming out of you. Now you're the only person who knows, okay, I need to adjust this because this is not really me, so that's not how I want them to get it. Let me adjust and be me. Or, this is really me, I need to do some real assessment and develop some things in me so they can get the right things from me so they can produce what they need to do. But either way, it's not on the object that you're leading, it's on you. And that's important to understand. I love this quote. Any leader who has only followers around them will be called upon to continually draw on their own resources to get things done. A leader should be surrounded by leaders, not followers. I was just having that conversation with somebody doing break. The fact that everybody is a leader. It doesn't matter whether you're visible or not. In other words, leadership is not based on visibility. Leadership is based on productivity. That's right. My whole body is important for me, but every part of my body is not visible to others. But if any part of my body becomes dysfunctional, then it's manifest by what the other parts of the body have to overcompensate for. So when you talk about leadership, it's never position. Leadership is never about position. As a matter of fact, I've discovered that most times the people that are really leading are not in the position. And the folk in the position are actually being led by the people that are following them from the position. And they just get the credit for it. Don't confuse just because somebody getting the credit, they the leader. Nah. That's like saying that turtle climbed that pole to get to the post. No, he didn't. Somebody put in there. I don't even think he thought to go there. Somebody said, you can go this high, pick him up, take him there. So please don't confuse visibility as value. Oftentimes the greatest value is in the individuals that are not most visible. So as a leader, don't strive for the position. Matter of fact, let them have it. Promote them, campaign for them, get in the position. I want you to have it. Go after it. Let me donate to your fund. And what you do, make yourself busy with purpose. Because here's what's going to happen. Because when somebody's looking for somebody to give $100 million grant to, and they need to see some results. Right. While you got these other people that's glossy and shiny and looking good but never did anything, that you know they didn't do anything, don't get caught on them. You stay busy being productive, and when they looking for a certain criteria for the $100 million grant, you'll be, while they got 100 people in front of the line on you, you watch all of them have to get out the line, and you was the last person in line, sweating, talking about, they ain't gonna consider me, and discover you the only one that meet the criteria for what the line was for. Look at somebody say, be productive. Be productive. Some of y'all like, I'm getting out my position today. I'm just going to be productive. But sometimes you can actually do more without the position. Yes. Really, say, look, no, I'm a team player. I want to be here, but let somebody else be the figurehead. Let them get the, matter of fact, I would rather not be there so they won't know who to shoot at. I actually do that with my staff and team, and it's planned, it's methodical, it's almost mafia driven. Let's put somebody in as a figurehead, a Manchurian candidate that can't do anything. And we're going to let them get the credit. So while people shoot at them, they don't realize they neutralized already. And the people that's doing it are through with it. It's already done. Folk over here shooting, we like, we done. Whenever y'all want to get through shooting, y'all can come to the party. And you got to learn that while you're fighting, spending all your time fighting for the position. So leaders who mentor potential leaders multiply their effectiveness. It goes back to what I talked about interdependency and building a culture of encouragement. That's what you want to build in every area of your life, because I told you at the beginning, your life is not compartmentalized. Every part of your life affects all of your life. So there's no such thing as a church life, and we've created those lives, and as a result, it's created a contradiction in our lives, which don't make our lives worth following. Because there's no consistency. Because if what comes out of me is based on my environment, that means I don't know me. Which makes me in some form of schizophrenic. It makes me a little off. If I got a face for this and a face. Now, it's one thing to practice diplomacy. Diplomacy is knowing how much of me to bring to an environment. So it's like Obama navigating that treacherous political terrain of international affairs with the new president of Iran, who didn't come to hear his United Nations speech, while Obama is addressing the issues and he's open for the meeting, and then the president of Iran, who really wanted to do it, but because the supreme leader told him he couldn't do it, but he don't want to make it look like the supreme leader has his hand on the buzzer to take out the rest of the world. He's got to navigate that. So he speaks that evening and seems to say the same things Obama said that morning, but yet couldn't meet with Obama. That's diplomacy. Because they're both being consistent in who they are. But they've already predetermined how much of them they can bring to the table. So it's one thing to have diplomacy, but it's another thing when you allow environments to dictate what you become. So you become a chameleon. You take on what's around you. What happens